Welcome, everyone. This is the first time we're actually doing this sort of thing here in VPG. It's very exciting. Super excited to have Nazim Benelkour here. So first, hi. Welcome. Welcome,
Yeah,
Nazim.
first time being here. Definitely haven't been around the server before, like at all. Like not a
So
single
first
bit.
time ever?
First
Well,
time ever in the VPG Discord server. Imagine me holding a canister of VPG and putting in a camera for a promo ad. That's what I'm doing
yes.
now.
But yes, we have Nazim here. Super excited to have him. Just a little, I'm just gonna gloat about you a little bit because
Okay.
you have done a lot recently, especially this year. 2023
Man.
has been your year, definitely. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, a few roles that he has played. I have to start with one of my favorites, starting with voiceover in anime. Nadir in Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, one of my favorite characters in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and we'll be diving in more on these roles as well. But we also got Gulgar in The Great Cleric. We got Janitor Coon in Clean Slate. Um, also additional voices in like Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beast, Reign of the Seven Spellblades, and Am I Actually the Strongest? Just to name a few. Also, video games. One of also my favorites, Chris in Talents, the
Yeah.
Atome visual novel. What?
What? The homemade visual novel that you can get right now if you download Atome.
If you go on Steam right now, the demo is out. Uh, yeah, we got that. We got various NPCs in Winecraft. Count Vincenzo in Thorn for the Villain. Um, who else? We got Lambert Quinson in Leyline Chronicles 2. So many more than that. We also,
Too
you do too many more.
Too many.
I got too many. I'm so busy. Uh,
I'm so busy.
you also do, YouTube narrations. You've done something for Albert Lovers in Crime for like webtoons. You've
Yes.
you've done like a mixture of everything, radio and commercial and all that fun stuff. And what
It's been
else?
fun.
Yes. And then you're also a casting director, and you have casted for some games like Leyline Chronicles 2, The Heartless, Dungeon Rummage Origins, um, and we'll dive into this more later as well. But you've been casting since you were 12, which is crazy for your own original animations. Amazing.
Uh,
But yeah, so let's first, start from the very beginning of your journey and everything. So I know you were born in New York, and
yeah.
then you also lived in Florida, and then now you're in Texas. Let's talk a little bit about what inspired you to get into voice acting. Like, where did you start? All that fun stuff.
Most definitely. So I started voiceover when I was 12, when I was very young. I used to be a stop motion animator when I was like really young because I was like a little crackhead, and I'm like, I want to make animations. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, how do I make animations? I loved Lego as a kid, so I used Lego to make my little animations, my little characters, my little stories, and I just played around with it. I ended up doing animation for about a year and a half until I got very bored of it. I appreciate any animator out there doing animation because that process is so much. There's so much that goes into it, and I learned how hard it is to animate frame by frame. Like, and I can only imagine the other grueling process of
Oh
animation.
my
So
gosh, I
whenever I
imagine.
see Oh my gosh, whenever I see like animators nowadays. I'm like, oh my gosh, I appreciate you guys so fucking much. But yeah, so like I got bored with animation and I'm like, I want to find something else to do with my time. I want to pursue something and actually, do something. So I looked at voiceover. I remembered that during my animated years, I, used my own voice to, bring my characters to life. And it was something that I, over time enjoyed more than the actual process of animating, you know?
Hmm.
And even with casting, like I ended up casting for my friends and other people's Lego animation projects too, getting voice actors that I knew, putting it together. I didn't know it was called casting during then because I was still a little beanie boy. So like, like I was still a little baby boy.
Yeah,
So I didn't really know what I was doing, but it ended up amounting to kind of all this. So yeah,
that
I
is
mean,
crazy. That's so amazing. So young, already knowing like, you know what, this is what I want to do. Um, that was not me.
yeah,
So it's
oh
really
man.
cool to see that with you.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh man. And then like, I tapped into other stuff. Like I didn't even know about anime until COVID, surprisingly. So like a lot
Yeah.
of my influence for like voiceover was like animated stuff. Like DC. Oh my god, I'm such a big fan of DC. Like DC animated movies, shows, like the video games, like all of that. Like that's what really pushed my drive into getting into stuff as well. And then
Mhm.
I discovered doing the anime, and I feel like that when I discovered anime is when I went like full throttle with voiceover. Like I always dabbled in it, I tapped into it, I wasn't as obsessed with it as I was when I saw the anime stuff. And then when I saw it, I said I want to be in it, right? I want to be in that.
Right,
Like it would be
exactly.
so cool to be in that. So I
Yes.
just over obsessed about it. Like I was obsessed. Like I did everything I could within the power of my control to do everything I can to pursue myself farther in the space of voiceover. Taking classes, doing research. The research was crazy, pouring like hundreds of hours of research into voiceover, listening to interviews like this, like jotting it down, taking like free seminars that a lot of networks had that just featured literally voice actors just talking about things about voiceover, which was like, of course I'm going to listen to them because I want to do this career. So like, literally just a compilation of just like hard work and dedication. I feel like those were the main factors, and God giving, like main factors as to why I'm here today. But yeah, that's the backstory, at least bits and pieces.
Yes. Yeah, it's honestly amazing because I know that we talked for the first time in the beginning of this year, I believe, like around
Hmm.
like beginning of January. And talking to you, you had so much information about everything. And I'm just like, whoa, this guy knows his stuff. He is ready to go. And we were talking about, the process, like that's before like when you were thinking about moving to Texas and everything, and
Hmm.
really diving into the anime and Crunchyroll and everything. And
Hmm.
I then what like a couple months later, like you went, and then here you are. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that. The process of maybe like how living in Florida and everything. How hard was it for you moving from family and moving
Mhm.
straight to Texas to um, get into this sort of thing? Um,
Honestly, I mean, it was definitely a process, right? Because I was considering my age, being how young I am in this space, and also considering life stuff as well. If I'm completely being honest, I, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't ready to move in all aspects of my life. I was not ready, but I knew what I wanted to do. I know that I wanted it bad more than a lot of other people in this world. And I knew that I'm the type of person that will just thug it out, you know what I mean? To do
right.
what I need to do in order to make this work. And so that's what I did. I honestly took the the bad way of going about it, which is going on a whim. To be honest, no one should go on a whim. You should always come prepared. But I did that. I went on a whim. I went on a whim. I took my information. I took my stuff with me. I found a place with some friends, and I'm like, I know this is what I want to do, and I'm going to make this work. So, I started just, doing YouTube narration work, which is, very grueling at times because of the pay stubs that you get are so little compared to the work that you're actually getting. But granted, I was still grateful for it because I was making money. You know what I'm saying? So that paid my rent for stuff. That paid, my bills for stuff. And, it paid for food. It put clothes on my back. So, like, I was just doing everything I possibly can to make it in that space. And I'm
Right.
like, even now, like, I'm dealing with, the processing of becoming an adult and learning the process of how do I become an adult? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yes.
going through the taxes, this, the insurance, the all of that. But,
Yeah.
I don't regret it because now I'm in a position where, like, I'm happy. Like, I'm happy. Like, the people that I live with are really dope people. Like, I'm doing what I want to do when I'm out here, and I'm doing other things as well that I didn't even know that I was going to do when I came down here. So the process of kind of moving to more simplify it was just like hard, but I pushed through it because I knew what I wanted to do, and it ended up amounting to really good success. Thank God, like,
Yes.
God willing. I'm like, really,
Yeah.
thank God.
Yeah, so you you moved to Texas in the beginning of April, I believe. And then
Yeah.
2 months later you made your anime debut already within 2 months, which is crazy. And your debut was in Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts, episode 4, if y'all want to see it.
Man, I remember being so excited when that happened because that email came out of nowhere. Like, people, I yes, I put like a lot of hard work into this, but I did not expect that email to come at all for that, session.
Right.
I'm like, I got that at a random, and then the first thing I did was called my mom and
Oh.
told her that it worked. Like that,
Yeah, she's probably
everything worked out.
worried, like,
You
oh,
know what
oh
I
my
mean? Like,
goodness.
it worked out. Thank God. Like, but when I got the email, it was from Jonathan Rigg. I can't even. I don't even have words to like form to just say how grateful I am to that guy because like he has been a pivot drive into my like entire Crunchyroll career. So I'm internally grateful for Jonathan for like considering me and like putting me in and trusting me for these roles, for bit roles and Sacrificial and Reign of Spellblade as well, and maybe some stuff in the future. So like it was it was really surprising to get that first email. I came in and it was actually my first time going in studio, and I didn't go into studio before Crunchy, and being able to walk into that space and just have that self affirmation to be like, I did it.
Right,
I did
yes.
it. Like it was very cool. It was very cool to kind of experience that and now get to kind of, essentially like, live my dream, Yeah,
Yes,
so
exactly. And then like it's crazy to think about. And then 2 months later after that was your first named anime role, which is
uh,
of course my love Nadir. Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. Absolutely amazing. And I think with that character too, it fits really well with your personality as well. Nadir.
Man, it was so funny because like on Twitter, I remember like putting something on Twitter, and this is also like something I'll bring up again with the crunchy stuff. I like I'm a big believer in putting things out there in the world, but also putting that same amount of effort like in yourself to match that as well, not just putting something out there in the world and not working hard towards it. So I'm like a very balanced person when it comes to that. So I really wanted to play a person of color in anime because I am a person of color, African American, Puerto Rican, and Moroccan. So I really wanted to get the opportunity to represent myself through a character like that because surprisingly, even throughout my indie stuff, I don't believe that I was able to actually get that opportunity yet. And I was
Mhm.
just like, damn, it would be really dope to do that. So I went on Twitter. I'm like, man, I can't wait for the day I play a Swanamena role or a POC role, and be able to proudly represent a character of my color, of my background and heritage. And then a dear email came in, and I'm like, what? It was crazy because I'm like, I didn't know of Sugar Apple before then, and I looked at the episode, and I first thought that Orland was Nadir. And I'm like, oh,
Oh.
this character looks cool. He's very silent and whatnot. And then I
Hmm.
see Nadir, and I'm like, no, that's Nadir. That's
Yes,
gotta
that
be
is the one I
Nadir.
want.
That's gonna be Nadir. I see him in this fit. I'm like, no, that's gotta be Nadir, bro. And I'm like, yeah, that was Nadir. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then surprisingly, afterwards, like not even a 10-minute delay, the Golgar email came as well. I booked
Wow.
Nadir are on the same day, surprisingly, and I was just like, "What the actual fuck is going on?" I'm
Oh
like,
my
"What is
goodness.
going on?"
That
Oh
is
man,
honestly amazing. And who was the first one that you told for those roles as well? Was it your mom?
yeah, it was my mother. My mother. Three people besides the man upstairs. That really was a pivot in helping me throughout my family was like my mother, my grandmother, and my aunts. Like those three women in my life, like were really pivotal in my like success, my journey, and like my upbringing into this career because they were the ones to teach me, to mentor me, to know how to act within these situations and whatnot. Like not to bring that ego into all this. Like they're the ones to teach me and to support me and be my backbone of doing this stuff. um and it's been really dope. It's been really dope. So yeah, the first person I told him, my mother. Second person was my grandmother, and my third was the aunts. So I was like, yeah, and they were happy, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was
Uh,
just like, yeah,
yeah.
like this.
I do want to talk about. I want to know about the moment that you found out that Kiba was actually going to be voicing alongside your character in Sugar Apple Fairy Tale because you've done coaching with Kiba. Um, let's talk a little bit about
Mhm.
that and like when you first found out, like how excited you were, how you were feeling.
Oh man, like I didn't know until Kibo reached out to me that he was doing it. Like I was looking at the other artists, and so I'm like, oh, I wonder who's gonna be in it because my session, I believe, my session date was like a little bit of my last one because I did kind of have a delay in terms of when I was able to do the session. So like I was kind of like the last one of the last people to go in for that episode. So then Kiba reached out to me on Twitter and he was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I'm voicing alongside you as Valentine and then Nadir." I'm like, "What?" I didn't even know. So he gave me that information. I'm just like, what? That's so crazy. Like Kiba, on the coaching side of things, Kiba has also been like a really big help within my career as well. Like honestly, I feel like out of all the classes I've taken so far, he's definitely one of the top three of people that coached me. That I'm like, has really helped my career on the acting side, on like the experience side, on like the even like part of like the life wise as well. As soon as I came down here to Texas, I believe the first person I met outside of my roomies that like hanged out with was Kiba. So it
Right.
was Kiba, and their partner as well, Cole. And getting to talk with him about, Nadir and all this stuff and Sugar Apple and like, stuff outside of life. It was awesome, man. And it was really cool because I remember sitting down in the workshops and, seeing everybody, already being with Crunchyroll, sharing stories and whatnot. And I'm like, man, I'm proud of you guys. But like, I also want to experience that too. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So,
exactly.
like yeah, I mean, getting to voice alongside really a big coach in my life, which that being Kiba was just like, it was just another add-on to like how cool this experience was. Um, Kiba Walker, to be more particular
Yeah.
about it, because I know there's some other Kibas out there. But yeah, it was really dope. Top of everything, to be honest.
Yeah, that's that it's like so many things happening in short amount of time this year for you. And like that was really cool. Um I want to talk about too a little bit about your experience with Crunchyroll, and
Mhm.
maybe like whatever you can say about it at least. Like how a day would go with Crunchyroll. I know a lot of people here probably really want to know about anime and everything. So let's talk a little bit about maybe advice on how to get in or things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'm gonna say about anime, and it's something that it gets talked about a lot, but it's not goes into detail a lot. Whenever it comes to getting into anime, Crunchyroll, really any dubbing studios out there that you see, everybody has their own story of how they got in. I know that's been like a continuous thing with people to say that are like working with the building, but once you work with the building, you will also find that to be true. Because how I got in was way different between like how Kiba got in, how my roommates got in, like how really everybody at that building got in. You know what I mean? Like my process was insanely different. So like if someone's going to go that route of wanting to be an anime, wanting to work with Crunchyroll, firstly, like, a lot of researching comes with that. A lot of like, hard work comes within that. You know what I mean? A lot of like preparation comes within that as well. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
firmly believe if I did not have the backbone, that being what I already had on my website initially, my visual reels, my work experience, testimonials, all that, I would not really have been considered as much. Maybe put on the roster, but definitely not called in, you know?
Hmm.
There is a very finite difference of being on that roster and then a finite difference between being actually called in. Like I know people that have been on that roster and just you know, haven't got called in sadly. And it's something that's happened a lot. You know what I mean? So like, there is that finite difference of actually getting on that space and then, getting called in for your first stuff. Because I don't know when I actually got onto the roster, if I'm being completely honest with you, because they don't send like an email being like, "Hey, congratulations, you got on the roster." They don't do that, So I'm
Right.
like, so you really never know, like, if you're on the roster, if you're not on the roster. I can't really find any way to tell if that's the case. Um,
Hmm.
but what I would say, I'll break this off into pieces. One, for someone giving advice to someone that's trying to get a Crunchyroll, I would say first, prioritize your background, prioritize becoming a voice actor before heading into that direction. And what I say about that is because, you know, directors are always looking at people. They're always considering people. They're always looking at, who's going to be the next guy, who they want to call in the new guy, like all these other things. I'm going to be real with y'all. Experience matters. You know what I mean? That them acting chops matters. Some workshops matter. Like they matter a lot because, God forbid you get called in, right? Not to scare anybody, but like you get called in for your first Crunchyroll session. You go in and you're just not prepared. Like, there's no like retakes. There's retakes, but there's no like, starting over again. You can't go back in the time machine and go back in the future, go back in the past and then like redo it. Like, no, there's just like you're doing the job. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. If you're doing the job, you have to have the qualifications to actually do the job. You know what I'm saying? So taking ADR classes is a big one. Learning the process of how it is to do ADR. Maybe even finding experiences in the live action world to do ADR yourself and actually experience what it's like to be a part of that job, that process of doing like your lip flaps and, acting while being, fucking, held back by lip flaps as well. Like that's a very big thing. With that and just there's so much about it, just like making sure you're prepared and not jumping the gun, because I've seen a lot of people jump the gun and sadly not be able to do what they want to do because they jump the gun too fast. You know what I mean? Take your
Right.
time. Like take your time. Like there is time. There's always going to be anime. There's anime that comes out every season. There's anime that comes out every season that we just don't dub. There's like, bro, there's anime all the time. Like y'all don't understand how much fucking anime. There will always be a chance to do it. You know,
Exactly. Yep.
I don't see. I realistically do not see a foreseeable future where a studio like Crunchyroll would just close down the shops and like, no, we're not accepting no more voice acting. Like, I don't feel like that will ever happen. I could be wrong, but I don't see that. But
Mm-hmm.
like, there is time. There's not like an immediate. I need to do it now to get into anime. Like, you have time and patience. Use that time. There is so much that you can do in 24 hours. There's so much that you can do in a week. There's so much that you could do in a month, and use that time diligently. Find out what it is yourself that you want to apply to your own individual business as a voice actor to bring yourself up the totem pole of this industry. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Letting your name, your face, your business be known to your colleagues and people that you want to work with in the future and being respectable about it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There is so much time that you have. It's ridiculous. I'm talking like Gary Vee. There's too much time that you have. Like, you guys, Gary Vee, he talks about that all the time. Like, there's so much time and whatnot. But there is. So I honestly feel like just use your time diligently, and you'll know when you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a feeling that you know when you're ready. I'll preferably ask a coach. You know what I mean? Ask like, an unbiased source as well to see if you're ready to like reach out to these dubbing studios and do all these things. The whole ready concept is very misconstrued because, you know, if I'm being honest, you never know when you're ready. As voice actors, we overthink a lot. We're just like, oh man, I want to, I want to get a new demo reel. I want to update my
Mm-hmm.
visual reel until like I'm ready. Yeah, yeah, we do all this stuff. You know what I mean? But I feel like the big indicator of knowing when you're ready, and this is how I knew that I was ready, looking at people that have been working at Crunchyroll, right? From the veterans to the people that just got in to the people that like are continually like, doing work, reoccurring stuff, and like, compare your positioning, right? See what like, somebody is doing and seeing what you're not doing. You know what I mean? And if you're feasible of doing it, then do it. One of the biggest people that I looked at, in particular of my career, was my now homie Patrick Mealy, and Patrick Mealy at the time was really big in the indie space, and he kind of transitioned to the indie space of doing crunchies. So I looked at his website. I looked at AJ Beckles as well. Like I looked at inspirations from other people that are working today and are working in the industries that I want to work in the foreseeable future, and look at what they're doing right now. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Jace. Yeah. But yeah, like that's honestly what what I did, to be honest. And look what you have, with what they have, and like just compare notes. That
Right.
that's that would be my one thing in terms of like just primarily into all of that.
Yeah, and that's really good advice. And also tying into that as well. And this also ties into even the casting director side as well, since we both been casting directors. The importance of your presence of like social media. There's a lot of times, at least for me, where I get recommended someone to put into a game or whatever, and I look at their social media, and it's kind of they say some things there that isn't the best.
Mm,
So thinking about those things, and also like there's a bunch, casting directors look at that sort of stuff, and other voice actors look at that stuff as well. um,
That
um,
that's a big thing too, like social
mhm.
media presence. When you put that there in social media, because I promise you, like you never know. Like I swear, I always had this like crackhead theory that like at the time where like directors would look at your tweets and they would just like, they'll keep it in mind, but they just don't like it. They don't interact with it, so you never know. And like
Mhm.
that's like that's applicable to like everybody. I mean, I have so many times where like I see like some pretty ifty tweets. I'm like, okay, unfollow maybe.
Right,
Like
yeah.
like I don't want to work with you. That's kind of
Yeah, because
so
it ties into like if you're doing like voice direction with them as well. Like how is
that
their attitude going to be? Is it the same as how they are on social media? because
Mm-hmm.
like I don't want to work with someone who's like bitching the whole time or anything like that.
Yeah,
Um,
like, bro,
yeah,
because it's a collaboration in the booth, especially when you're doing like bro anime, and you're having a fun time. You know what I mean? Like it's a good balance between doing what you gotta do and just enjoying yourself. You know what I mean? Like, that experience overall, you can't really gauge in the Twitter space or the social media space. So, whatever a director can to really find how you're going to be acting like personality wise, outside wise, it's it's honestly very pivotal, if I'm being honest. Um making sure that what you're putting out there is just good. You're being a good person. It's
right.
so simple nowadays. Just be good. You know what I mean? If you got a controversial opinion, keep it to yourself. Like
Yeah, there's a lot
I
of
promise
things
you,
that
bro.
shouldn't be
Twitter is not for
said.
space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that we shouldn't say in front of a bunch of people on Twitter
Oh
and
my
whatnot
god.
because you never know who is watching.
But
Um,
yeah.
but
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, like overall, when it comes to like, just the anime stuff, and then particularly with Crunchy, um, it's just being a voice actor, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like taking the steps taken to actually become like successful as a voice actor in this space. The more that you do that, the higher your chances is with working with that company. I mean, I was primarily focused on becoming a voice actor first, learning acting, learning how to maneuverate my voice, learning the business side of the voice acting, learning equipment as well. You know what I mean? Doing all these things to be able to kind of like expand myself and work my way up this industry. Because it's hard. It
mm-hmm,
really is hard to stand out, to do all these things, direct marketing, cold emailing, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a lot of things to do. But, when you do it and you do it right, you know, it works out.
mm-hmm.
That's what I've seen. If you do it right, it works out. Like that like it can work out, and
Yes.
I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, and also curious as to a lot of us have once or how many times dealt with burnout when it comes to
Mm,
certain things. So, have you ever had burnout before? Whether it's like
uh,
with the voice acting or even casting, anything.
Bro, I'm so weird. Like I'm so weird because like I don't feel like at least comparable to how others feel burnout. I can honestly say I haven't felt it before, but I feel like my reason as to why I haven't felt it is because I'm not sure like what is the primal reason behind burnout. But I've just kept my life very balanced as much as I possibly can. I've been fortunate enough towards where I was in a living environment towards where I was able to do that. Knowing that when it's not time to think about voice acting and when it's time to just think about myself and think about my
Mm-hmm.
mental health, think about things that will primarily, affect me, and knowing when there is downtime and knowing how to do that. I mean, I used to be 100% full throttle voiceover, but then like, I realized that there are other things to do that will help with voiceover without actually doing voiceover, if that makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
24/7, I'm always thinking about voice acting. You know what I mean? Because it's my job. I love doing it. You know what I mean? So it's something that's always working throughout my mind. I have an extra lobe, and it's called voice acting. That's what it is. But right now, I mean, and how I've been kind of going about it from this last year is just keeping that healthy balance, if all possible, between knowing when there is downtime. You know what I mean? Primarily focusing on your mental health, and knowing when they're like, knowing your limits. Knowing when you need to stop doing voice acting for a little bit. You know what I mean? Knowing when you're doing too many auditions in a day, when your voice is like doing knowing when to stop when it comes to that.
Take a break.
Um, take a break and find other things outside of voice acting to keep you primarized. I mean, my thing has been video games. I mean, if anybody wants to work in Street Fighter, they can have it. Besides Jace, Jace will whoop my ass in Street Fighter any day. Jace, please do not challenge me. I pray. Okay, but like,
Don't challenge me.
but besides Jace, if you want to work in Street Fighter, you know. But So like, I play video games from time to time. When I can have the time to do so. Um, and that keeps my mind busy. That's like, whenever I play video games, I feel like that it's like my time to just like relax, calm down, and like, just get myself 100% full throttle into a game. You know what I mean? It's something with a story, and okay, dude. But like, something into a story. Actually getting into the story, and like, being able to do that. And that's also helped voice acting too. You know what I mean? If you're worried about like progression, I feel like this is another thing. I mean, I've seen this being a primary reason about burnout. That you're not doing enough. Let me speak about this for a little bit. A little crack inside. You're always doing enough. I'll put it out there. Because as long as you're doing something, no matter how minimal and how big it is, it's always a drop in the bucket. I have this metaphor where like every time we work, right? Every time we do something, every time we read a book, or every time we practice, every time we book a role, every time we have experience, every time we research, it's a drop in the bucket. No matter how big or small that drop is, you're filling up an infinite bucket. That bucket's never going to be filled up. Because guess what? Voice acting is a subjective career. There's no direct route. It's not that you're trying to become a doctor. You know what I mean? You go to school for 8 years, and then you boom, degree, move on, become a doctor, boom, you're done. Like voice acting is a career that is like never really over, to be honest. You know what I mean? There's always something to do. There's always a next thing. There's always like another role, another anime, another video game, another like, another opportunity, another audition, another agency, another like, way to edit your website, another this, another that. You know what I mean? So like the goal shouldn't be like to overwork yourself to death to try to reach that top, I've learned. It's just more of like being the best you. And that's something a close friend of mine has, told me, and it's changed my perspective about it a lot. So like being your best you and putting your foot forward, but remembering no matter how big or small towards what you're doing is, you're doing something. And you're always putting a drop into the bucket. That infinite void, that infinite bucket, you're doing something. And I promise you, as long as you're doing something every day, it will amount to something. You know? That
Hmm.
that that was been my thing for the longest time, man. Like I always challenge myself to do one thing related to voice acting per day. At least one. At least one. And I got to the point where I did that so consistently, towards where I like automatically just do that every day. I automatically just like, read a book. I automatically just do my YouTube narration. I automatically do some research about voice acting. I automatically just do something like that. And it's become like, a really healthy thing established in my life. I'm like, oh, okay, let me, it's not like, oh, I gotta wake up and do a voiceover thing today, but like, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, let me do something. You know what I mean? Like that's how I am, So I just I do something every day, at least one thing. And if I want to do another thing, I do another thing. If I don't want to do another thing, at least I did one. You know what I mean? Like that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And also, talking about, because a lot of people as well, and Michelle just brought it up a little bit about, not getting cast for things.
Hmm.
So talking about like rejection and criticism, how do you handle it? What do you learn from the experiences of that?
Man, if I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the right guy for this, Megan. Like because I'm so weird. Oh my gosh, on my private time, I'm a weirdo. I think I love rejection. Like I think I've got rejected so much for things that I started falling in love with it. It's like a toxic ex. That's exactly what it is. And I keep coming back to it. So like I love it because what I do whenever I get rejected for something, I put it as fuel to my fire, right?
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I know because voice actors put it out there all the time. Rejection happens to everybody. There was one thing I would say. So like I was working to get this role, and it was like it's one of my dream roles that I was working to get. And I was so close, Megan. I was so close. And I didn't book it. I didn't book
Yeah.
it. So during my time during this convention at WeebCon, I was guesting there, God willingly, and I got to talk to a lot of that giants in the industry, titans, if you metaphorically would say. And one of those people was Kellen Goff. And at the time, this was my first time I had a dream role, and I actually had somewhat of a shot to get it, and it just didn't happen. So I talked to him about it. I'm like, hey, I don't know how to feel right now. I just found out I didn't get it, and with his permission, I can say this, but like he said that he's dealt with it all the time. You know what I mean? And bad. You know what I mean? Like really bad.
Yep.
And like how he goes about it now is that like his focus is no longer on like individual roles. It's just like, hey, if I get into something, I get into something. If I have a thing I really want to get into, I just hope I get into the project at least, and I'll just do everything I can to get into it. But if it doesn't happen, it just wasn't meant for me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that was my good thing, and then that's something that's changed my perspective a lot about rejection, because I know at least I did everything I possibly can to get that role, and if I just didn't get it, then that's just how it is. You know what I mean? It sucks. You know what I mean? But there's
Mhm.
only so much I can do. There is only so much that you can do to book something. I learned that, especially when over assessing over my dream role. And there's literally only something that you can do. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much you do research, all this, it helps. But it ends with the audition. And once you send out the audition, it's done. Now you put everything that you put into the hands of the director, the casting director, and if they like it, then you get it. But if
Mhm.
this is not their cup of tea or what they were looking for, then you know you don't get it. That's just how it is at this point. So rejection for me has fueled me a lot in this space, because at least I know at the end of the day, even if the only thing I do is just the audition and like my audition technique and going about it, I just know that I did everything in my power. That's why I put 100% of my acting ability, my audition technique into every audition I do. Because if I put my 100%, my 110% into it, I know that if I didn't book it, then it's only so much I can do. I've had times, man, I've had times where I've booked roles. I had a time where I booked this crazy role, and some close friends know about this, but I won't say it here. I booked this really big role that would have been monumental to my career, and I booked it, and I got recast because of the union. So they didn't know I
Mm.
was union. I was a non-union actor. So I got recast, unfortunately.
Oh.
Things like that can happen, you know?
Mhm.
So, like, oh yeah, so Hana brings up a good point. Anime Expo. It was this Bang Zoom open audition, right? And, lovely people, lovely environment. I flew out there on a whim to go to LA and, try to audition.
Mhm.
And I didn't get the chance to audition, you know? That happens too. And, I've had points and times where I was a casting director and a voice actor on a show, and I got recast because they had an increase of budget and they didn't want me anymore. Like, a lot of things happen. So what I do to make up for that is I step back and allow myself to be grateful for what I can. You know what I mean? So to
Mhm.
pinpoint each and every one of them, for like the Bang Zoom thing, for example, I'm grateful that I was able to go to LA to pay for that ticket, to fly out there to LA on a whim, and at the bare minimum, get to meet my fucking friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I hang out with some cool friends like Gerard, like Gerard Burkett, like Emily Jin, like Babushka. Like, I got to see people that I wouldn't have been able to see if I didn't go down there. You know what I'm saying? Like my homegirl Toasty, like I wouldn't have been able to do all of that if I didn't go down there. And the open auditions, although I didn't audition, I learned some stuff. It was cool. I got to see how Tony Oliver directs. You know what I mean? That's something that, an experience that you pay for some of the times. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I got to see the process of Bang Zoom and its inner workings and how it works and TSM Entertainment and it's on Undead Unluck. As a fan of Undead Unluck, I was like, oh my God, I fucking love this. You know what I mean? So, like, there was so much to be grateful for in that situation. for the one that I got recast was because I was in union, right? I stepped back and I'm like, okay, what can I be grateful about? Grateful that I was even able to book that. Like that audition got sent to everybody on like Atlas, CSD, the big dogs. And I
Yeah.
outbooked all of them. And I'm like, that, you know what I mean? That's something like, I was grateful for that. I'm like, damn, I know I'm an actor. You know what I mean? I know that my acting chops are competitive. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
if the only thing holding me back wasn't being union, I would have did it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something as well. For the third thing, right? At least I was able to help them in the casting process. Being able to like give them the understandings of how the inner workings are with casting and being able to help them with that. And like being able to cast some people on that project that I knew would be really good for those characters. You know what I mean? There's
Mm-hmm.
always something to be grateful for within any situation. Even like I said, even if it's just audition for something, apply your audition technique, and then you're done. Like there even is something to be grateful for in that situation. I take, mm, I like to bring up a lot of quotes, but I do kind of misconstrue the quotes a little bit, so I kind of give my own little quote about it. So Steve Harvey's a big fan of this analogy, and he puts a lot of stuff out there about it. It's just the act of being grateful, right? In a situation towards where, let's say you're in traffic and you're trying to get to work, right? And you're just fucking pissed off about it. Being grateful can help you overcome the situation. At least I have a car. At least I have a job to go to work for. You know what I mean? Like that mindset has helped me out so much. Not only was rejection, but like pushing through my narration stuff. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
sometimes I have like narration work that I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. This is like, this is grueling. But then I'm like, I'm grateful that I even have this position. I'm grateful that like this, along with other things, has become my backbone towards where I can consider myself full time in voiceover. You know what I mean? Like I'm glad I have this, and being grateful, like it's not forcefully grateful, but like just being grateful for the things that you got and the opportunity that you're able to do helps so much in that whole process of getting rejected and all these different things. Is That's what I'm saying, Sean. It's just changing the mindset of how you look at certain things, and how you look at certain things really, it's a big factor in how like you feel about those things. You know what I mean?
Right.
So looking and thinking about certain things changes the way that you feel about things. Write that down. I'm kidding.
Write it all down.
Write it all down.
But yeah, it's also like, in the entertainment industry, it's really important to have, you gotta be tough skinned when it comes to this sort of stuff. At least I know with me, I told my friends, I get called back a lot and then I
Yeah.
never land it. Um, will I mope a little bit? Yeah. I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
But I don't, completely quit or anything. I just use that like, even getting a call back, like that is a win in
Yeah.
itself. Like you beat out a certain amount of people, and even you like getting booked in that, that project, you beat out everyone. And
Hmm.
even though you didn't get it, it's still like that is a huge win because like
Hmm.
I was good enough. Like they loved me. Like this was, and then it's also like diving a little bit into the casting side as well. It is different between every single casting director because we all have our different opinions and what we want for the project. Uh,
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about that, like the casting side. How you maybe like how you cast for things, what you're
Uh,
looking for when it comes to that
yeah.
sort of stuff.
I mean, I haven't casted often as of late. My recent one was The Heartless. And I usually fall into the casting position based upon like projects that I'm already involved in because they don't really have that much of a knowledge about the casting part. So I'm like, I got you, fam. Like, I usually fall in a lot to my casting positions. But whenever I do, when like I'm in that position of casting, I consider a lot of things. My biggest thing about the casting thing, and whenever I listen to auditions, is that there's a level of care that you can kind of. I'm not sure if you've seen this, Megan, but like there's a level of care that you can sense from an audition
Mm-hmm.
difference from someone that doesn't care,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And I feel like that putting 110% into your auditions is a very different audition alone than someone that's just throwing it away. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And granted, some of the times those throwaways are good. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when I'm listening to audition, man, like I'm like, I put a lot of more care into what I'm casting for than probably some other people might. I'm not sure, but I'm like, these are people's characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
People that have put their time, love, appreciation in cultivating a story into, this character and, bringing all these troubles and lives and things and creating the story and, putting that out there and, doing all this work. I would want a voice actor to match that match that level of careness, at least to the limit that they would actually be able to. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, that's what I look for as well. I'm like, I'm looking for someone to care about this character, someone that takes the extra 2 to 3 minutes on their audition to really make sure that they're right. The people that take the Brooke Chalmers method in waiting an hour after their audition and coming back
Yep.
and seeing like the flubs and whatnot. The people that put like care, love, and attention into their audition. And granted, like I'm not saying, spend an hour on your audition. At max like 15, maybe 10 at a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people that care, the people that actually read everything I put in that document, because everything's important. If it wasn't important, I wouldn't put it on the document. I promise.
Exactly.
If it was just crap, if it was just bullshit, I would not put it on the document. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
like, I appreciate when people do that. Put that care into reading everything, reading the story. You know what I mean? Even people that like go out their way, you could hear that in the auditions. Like the people that go out their way to do something that I don't even think of. My favorite audition I've ever listened to, and there was something that really got me into casting, was my homie Emily Jin, and it was casting for Polywog. And during that, I listened to their audition, and I saw just how much care and attention they put into a character that at the time didn't even have a name. They put like improv into it, not like too much improv just where they're diverting from the story. They, cultivated this character within their own voice. They actually like, took the direction and even like in some of the takes, added their little own like spice and flavor. I'm like, I like that. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, that's like the kind of work relationship that I like, you know what I'm saying? And obviously, if someone doesn't have that feeling of like oh, I'm excited for this project 100%, like, but they're still good. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's just, cast them. You know what I mean? And they ended up loving the character, they're doing what their stuff. This is part of the job. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like it's a very big thing with me cuz I'm like when someone trusts me with the position of casting for their characters, I look into their characters, I look into the stuff, I look into everything they're doing. I'm always interacting with the director of the owner of the project. I
Mm-hmm.
see how much character attention they put into these characters, and I'm like, it's like they're babies, bro. It's like, like
Yes.
literally giving responsibility to someone to watch over their babies. It's literally like what that is, and people don't
Mm-hmm.
realize that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
even anime, bro. Like I can give you something like I haven't worked with him before, but I've heard like so many things, good things. Anthony Bowling, the director of One Piece, for example, he loves One Piece, like loves One Piece. He loves the freaking characters, and has put so much of his time to like look into it and do everything about it. So like, imagine cast you send an audition, and you don't even care. You know what I mean? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, yeah, it's just not the care is not even like, there. It's just like, if you don't care about it, how are you supposed to convince me that you can convince people that you care about the character? You know what I mean? Because it's a
Mm-hmm.
difference in performances. Like I think about this all the time. It's a very, very difference in performances. To bring up him again, Kellen Goff. Like the biggest role I love him for is Diablo and JoJo Bizarre Adventure, and you can hear the passion. you can hear the passion he has for that character because there's certain like words and phrases that he like expresses a lot more and puts his like back into it and like really digs down deep, like 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 compared to someone that doesn't. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That performance gets loved so much, even if you're just doing a dub. Like it gets loved and appreciated by the fans. Cause like, bro, when you realize that, like, you at least in the anime side, when you're doing these stuff, like, you're a part of this world, you're part of this project, you're a part of this character. You know what I mean? Like, you should be doing things that actually, like, connect yourself more in the character because you're given that blissful opportunity to play the role. And going back to the casting side, I can hear that in the auditions. It's a
Yes.
very big difference between someone that does and someone that doesn't. At least when I hear auditions, I haven't really come across a moment when I couldn't. But that couldn't happen. But at
Yeah.
least in my neck of the woods, everybody that does casting casts very differently. But at least in my neck of the woods, I look for that a lot. And obviously the basic things like the audition technique, the auditioning, the whether they're fit for the character, the voice for the character, all that. But like
Yeah.
that's my biggest oomph in the casting space as well.
Right. Like I know like, whenever you get certain auditions and let's say there's, a couple characters that you are able to audition for. And you can actually
Mhm.
tell, some people they're like, "Oh, this is the one I want." And then that other character, I'm not feeling that one, but I'll do it anyways. And
Word.
you could tell exactly like how much they really want each character and like you said like within their voices listening
Mhm.
back on it like a casting
Yeah.
director is going to be like yeah I can tell you don't want this character so it happens a lot and like listening to a bunch of people say like I really like it's like I don't want to do commercials but you should dabble in everything. It shouldn't
Word.
be just one set. Like I want anime, and that is what I'm gonna do, and that's it. No,
Mhm.
you should dabble in promos and narrations and
Mhm.
everything. Um,
Yeah.
um,
100%.
mm-hmm. Um, and like even with you again, like you even do radio. I have not done radio yet, but
Yeah.
I
Radio's
am
fun.
I'm open to doing everything.
Mhm.
And even like with me, like starting my first big thing was e-learning, like a
Mhm.
e-learning kids thing. Um, and my in my mind, I was like, I'm doing anime, but then I did that,
Mm.
and I'm like, oh, that's this is actually kind of fun. Um,
Yeah.
so really experimenting with everything with
Mhm.
voiceover. Um, we are
Exactly. 100%. And like, to dabble on that topic, it gets talked about a lot. Me, like I said, I love doing voiceover. So yes, I do try to do everything. But I'm also an advocate towards where you don't need to force yourself to do everything as well. Because
right.
I do know people that just if you simply cannot mess with a certain type of voiceover, then don't do it. You know
Yeah,
what I
don't do
mean?
it.
Like, you don't need to do it. But like, because that's my thing. I mean, like, I have people that just like I've had people like just talk about commercials and they just hate commercials. And it's like I gotta do this. I gotta, like, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, definitely dabbling it, trying it once, seeing if you do like it. I mean, I never knew I would like enjoy the narration process as much as I do, but dabbled in it, tried it. I'm like, okay, this is kind of fun. You know what I mean? So it's a big thing, and it gets talked about a lot. Anime is not everything, but I feel like that it does get downplayed to how fun it actually is. Because anime is not everything, but it also isn't not something. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
really fun of a process. You know what I mean? Like I would be the guy in the corner, like talking about like I love doing what I do. Like you know what I mean? Like I love coming in studio and being able to like play these characters. Like I enjoy the process so much that it's like I love doing what I do. So, like, although it's not everything, definitely you should be, doing indie stuff, video games, animation stuff. Like, you definitely dabble into other things. But, anime is still something at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And it's still like, it's fun, you know? So that's
Mm-hmm.
why, like, even when I do see people that, like, push for anime only, like, 100%, I only want to do anime, I only want to do anime, I'm like, I understand that. I reconcile with that, behavior and that, like, the instinct, because, I remember when I was just like, bro, I would love to fucking be in JoJo. Like, I would love to be a JoJo. But,
Yeah.
like, and that's something I chase for even today. Like, I chase for JoJo, man. Like, I can't wait to be in a position towards where I'm able to, like, do that and get to play like anybody in JoJo. Like, I do that still. And I feel like that, like, as long as it's healthy and as long as it's not like, only your primary goal in life. Like, you're Isagi and Blue Lock. My only goal in life is to become the best striker. Like, just as long as you are, yes, dabbling to other things, knowing that voiceover isn't only anime, it's still like you can want to do anime. You know what I mean? I feel like that, like, in this
Mhm.
industry, we like kind of, you know, brought down the sense of people wanting to do anime. You can want to do anime. Like, that's not a bad thing. I just want to put that out there. Like, for you to want to do anime, that's like good. You know what I mean? Don't have somebody tell you that you wanting to do anime is bad, bro. Like, please. Like, bro, it is not bad to want to do anime. It is concerning to only want to do anime, but if that's what you want to do, then if you tried everything else and you're like, no, I don't like anything else. I only like anime. I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? Do you? Everybody has their own journey. I mean, there's somebody like people in the top of the industry, like people like only do anime at some points. I know so many people that only do anime. You know what I mean? Like, like it's a thing. You know what I mean? But don't be like just talking down on yourself because you want to do anime, man. I mean, like, definitely dabble into other things and learn about other things. You know what I mean? Like, try to, research about other things. See if those other things are your interests. You know what I'm saying? But, like,
Mhm.
I'll be realistic with you. Anime doesn't pay the bills all the time. You know what I mean? And it is very inconsistently, inconsistent. You know what I mean? And if I didn't have what I do have, I would not be able to pay for me living out here. You know, so
Mhm.
I'll be realistic. I'll be realistic with you talking about that. But you know what I mean? So, like, it is good to diversify. It is really good to diversify, but wanting to do anime isn't a bad thing. That's what I want to say.
Yes. I feel the same.
Mhm.
I one more question before I throw it to everyone who wants to, chat with you and ask a question. More so, you are, one of the youngest,
Mhm.
working in anime right now. And we talked a little bit about it before, but I want to stress to everyone, about, rushing, like, oh, my age, like, I'm getting too old to do this, which is so not the case at all. I'm turning 28 and I'm still, you know working my way up, and I'm not rushing, and with you being one of the youngest, you're 2023 is your year, definitely. I mean, you landing everything, um, which is fantastic. But I really want everyone to know, like, please do not rush. Like, we all have our own set journey, when it comes to this. Sean, yes, you have a
Yes.
chance. Oh my gosh, what was the voice actor? He started oh my god, I can't remember his
Steve
name.
Bloom.
He, yeah, I think he
Steve
played
Bloom.
Makarov too. The
Oh
one that
yeah.
I'm thinking about, he plays Makarov in Fairy Tale, and he was acting before, but he started voiceover at, I think, like 48, um,
Hmm.
which is like, that's crazy to think about. But yeah, I want you to tell everyone how.
Yeah, I mean, dog, I've had like both sides of the coin. I've had people like tell me that they're too young to be able to do this. I have people tell me that they're too old to do this. Man, I got friends in their 30s. I got friends in their 40s. I know people in their 50s that like are just getting into it. And that's not a lie. You know what I mean? Like, Steve Bloom, for example, started when he was pretty old and pretty up there. You know what I mean? And look at him now. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's doing crazy things. And I'm like, I'm a very big advocate on both ends of the spectrum. I mean, being the youngest working with the company, at least from my knowledge, is, it's an amazing opportunity. I'm glad that the age thing isn't such a big factor towards where no, you are 18 years old, you're a little baby boy, you can't live. No, I'm glad that it isn't like ageist in the building. You know what I mean? I also don't push that to my forefront. I'm like, hey, I'm 18. But like it, it's it's honestly really grateful of an opportunity. I mean, dog, you can do voiceover at any time. I mean, dog, because there's always opportunity, there's always auditions, there's always stuff, there's always things to do, always the things to do. Uh, in 5 years, hopefully when the robots don't take over, like there will be work, there'll be work, and you can always find work. I find work all the time. And it's like online research, Google, like Twitter, social media, LinkedIn. Like there's always work. There's always work, and as long as you know where to find work, you'll be good. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You start any time. All it takes is a microphone and you know, dabbling into it to see if you like it, and then just do it. You know what I
Right?
mean?
Yeah, you got to put in the work and find the stuff. It nothing's really gonna happen if you sit back and wait, and have
Mhm.
think things are gonna be handed to you. You
Work.
actually have to go out there and you gotta
You got.
network. You gotta do all that fun stuff. Even though a lot of
And
us are
I
like
would think.
like social anxiety we have, where we're like, oh, we gotta talk to people. What?
No.
But yeah, in this industry, you kind of have to.
Man,
Sorry to
I'll
burst
say
that
one more
bubble.
thing. No, no, no. I mean, like,
No.
I'll say one thing before we move on to the questions.
Hmm.
About networking, and I feel like that networking is it's a topic that's not talked about a lot, and I wish that it was talked about more, because the networking stigma is that you gotta make connections, you gotta let people know, you gotta hand it a bit. Like, you don't gotta do all that. Like, networking can be literally simple as letting someone know that you exist.
Yeah.
But that's been my networking style for years. Like my networking style has been literally accidentally bumping into people and just being like, "Hey, I exist." You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's like,
I
hi.
exist. This is what I do. You know what I mean? Like that is quote unquote networking if you want to phrase it like that. But I
Hmm.
just phrase it as just like letting people know that you are a thing. You're existing. You know what I
Right.
mean? Networking is not this super bad thing. As long as you don't make it this super bad thing and a part of your personality, then you're good. You know what I mean? Like, it isn't all just about making connections and making sure that the entire industry knows your name. Like, it literally is just like, you doing you, seeing people that you enjoy, letting people know that you exist, and just
Hmm.
putting your stuff out there consistently. You know what I mean? Just letting people know that you're still alive and you're still good, and you're doing voiceover stuff still. You know what I mean? Putting it on social media. Letting your presence be known. Like maybe going to little hangouts if there are. Join Discord servers. Interacting with people. Letting them know you exist. You know what I mean? It's literally just like,
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
you exist. This is what you do. Oh, I'm gonna check out what you do. Oh shit, you do some really good work. Like like it's just like igniting the flame. That's literally what it is. And igniting the flame, it can start. So you know what I mean. You don't need a flamethrower to light a candle. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can use a lighter. You know what I mean? To light a candle. You can use a little stick to light a candle. It is equivocal, if that's a word. It's equivalent to networking and
Hmm.
quote unquote putting yourself out there and doing all this stuff. You don't need to jump in Adam MacArthur's DMs and like, hey, Adam MacArthur, I exist. Like like no, like I said, you don't need to put a flamethrower to a candle. Like you can start small with everybody. It's just a simple hello. This is my name. I'm a voice actor. I love what you do. That's it. You know what I mean?
Me, I see someone like say, "Oh, I'm gonna be playing Phasmo," and I'm like, "Hey, I love that game. You want to
Word.
play? You want a game? What do
Like,
y'all
bro, like
like?"
if this gives anybody food for thought, literally the only conversations I've had with Sean Gann, the person that cast me for the Nadir and Sugar Apple, and Jason Lord, the person that cast me for Gulgar and the Great Cleric, my only conversation extended to them, which was literally what I said. It was like, hey, thanks for the follow. I love your work. I love what you do. I hope to work with you one day. And
Yep,
that's it. You know
that's
what I
it.
mean?
Boom.
That was the extension of my conversation with them. And look, you know what I mean. Look, this is what happens. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just how it is. So I personally don't take networking as a forefront, as like a, oh, it's a stigma on networking, doing everything, blah blah blah. Like, it's just like, let people know you exist. You know what I mean? Be chill, be cool. You know what I mean? Don't make it your personality. You know what I mean? If you're at a convention, you know what I mean, knowing where to say stuff. You know what I mean? Be like, observant of conversations. You know what I mean? If someone's at their booth signing something, don't stand there for an hour talking about voiceover when there's people in the line. You know what I mean? Like, just be observant. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be weird. Like, if you can. I'm weird, but like, don't be too
Right.
weird. You know what I mean? So like, yeah. So that's what
Yeah,
I would say
and
about networking.
yeah, and even in those situations, even like let's say like all y'all want to work at Crunchy, when you go, you can't just be over the top and be like, "Oh my God, I'm at Crunchy." Yeah, blah blah. Like it's still a
I'm
job.
in anime
It's like, "Oh
now.
my God." It's like you see all these like big voice actors. And it's like, "Oh my God, I gotta talk to all of them."
Oh
Things like
my
that.
god.
But like being
Uh,
professional, because it is a job.
oh, let
You're
me talk
there to
about
work.
that. If I may
Oh
interject.
gosh.
If I may interject.
Go
So,
ahead.
when you go into, especially when you go into these studios, man, you will bump into people. I promise you, you will bump into titans, dog. You literally, bro. Chris Sabat's walking across the room. Justin Briner sitting down drinking coffee. Clifford
Uh-huh.
Chapin is like in the corner. Like, bro, you will like when you walk into that building, you don't expect that, but like, there are times where that happens, and just don't be weird. That's literally what it is. Don't be weird about it.
Yes.
If you're a fan of a certain thing that they're in, you can tell them, but just do it respectfully. If they're talking to somebody, wait until the conversation's done. You know what I mean? If they're sitting down and you see them and they're not having a good day, probably wait a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So be
And run up to somebody and like, just take a picture of them. You know what I mean? If like, don't stay away from taking pictures at Crunchyroll unless people are respectable and like actually allow you to. You know what I mean? Like, you know, be cognizant of your actions and know that it can have consequences if you're being too weird. So like, just be yourself and you'll be fine. Like, because I promise you, dog, I've had so many moments like that. I've bumped into people, and I'm like, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" Justin Cook
it's
is walking right past me, and he gave me a hello. He knows of my existence. Like, like, so I'm
mm-hmm.
like, a lot of crazy stuff happens in that building. I mean, crazy stuff, and like a lot of people show up. I'm like, "Oh shit! Well,
You're
oh,
like, what do I do? What do I do? But yeah, like, just be respectful to them because, even though they've been doing it for so long, or even there might be some new people there as well. Um,
word."
yeah, just be aware of, again, like, of your surroundings, be respectful. Again, it's still a job, even though it's a really fun job. But you're still there to work and you want to be as professional as you can. And then, whenever you get into your car on the way home, that's where you can scream and do all that do all that fun stuff.
Oh man, I had a story. I'll tell you one story, and then this will be this transition to the questions if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I had a story. It was I was at this hangout, and Jonas Scott came forward, and he came to the party, and I was just like, I fucking love Jonas Scott. He's a really dope of a person. So he's interacting and whatnot, and we Jonas guys is like, Jonah's like, yo, okay, who has to go to the bathroom? I'm like, I do, I gotta go to the bathroom. Like, and we just took a picture of the bathroom, and I can proudly say I took a piss with Jonas Scott. Like, that's my thing. So like, you want to have situations like that where it's just like little cool things, you do. Here's a picture. I'll drop it here. Yeah. I mean, like, no, that's you have interactions like that. Just don't be weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just don't be weird about it. And that's all. To be honest,
Yeah,
I just want to put it out there. I think I'm pissed with Jonas Scott. Like that's my
that is
only
the
thing that I'll
end.
put out there. Being a
That's the
weirdo.
end of this. No, yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah.
but yeah, I really wanted to end it with that because again, if for those who want to get into anime and stuff, it is really important because, these people are going to be your coworkers and they're going to remember you maybe. Maybe they
Mhm.
won't. You know, maybe they will.
Yeah,
Maybe
they won't.
maybe afterwards they'll be like, "Hey, you want to go out?" You know, who knows? Just be cool. Just be cool.
Yeah, word. Just be chill. Just be
Just
chill.
be
Just like just pretend that you're just cool beans. You know what I mean? Like just pretend like you that guy.
Again,
Like
yeah, and then go home, and then that's where you can freak out.
yeah,
Because I
exactly.
feel like
You go
that's
home
what
to your
I
room
would
and say,
do. I would go
literally,
home and I'd
like
be like, Dylan, you will not believe what happened. Who I
you will
met
not
today.
believe this. I took a piss with Jonas Scott. I
I
will
took
put
it.
that on my gravestone, bro. Like yeah. Oh man.
I guess.
No,
So.
we're not. I'm gonna say three last things. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Uh,
Listen, I could talk
I,
to you all night for real.
mean,
But
yeah, but
you
I
know.
do want to end it off, if
Mhm,
I may,
mhm.
with I ended off with three of my little things. So here's my three things that I probably did or did not talk about already. I probably did, but here we go. So three things. I'll make it fast. I promise you, Megan. I'm not
You're
going
fine. You're fine.
to. I'll try my best. Okay, so three things, and I would say advice wise for all the voice actors out there to really consider and really really go at. Okay, number one, equipment. Let me tell you something about equipment. I did 4 or 5 months of my voice acting career with Apple headphones and my booty ass Android, and I booked. Now, granted, that's not going to be the case for everybody. And what I'm saying is, equipment isn't everything. You better not buy a goddamn Neumann
Don't you get that
103.
Neumann.
Don't you get that TLM
Don't
103
you
when you
get
just
that
start out. Oh
Apollo.
my god. The only line, don't. Because the reason why I booked is because my space was really good. I had a
Yep.
really good space for whatever reason. I don't know what the manufacturers, the architecture did with my apartment back then, but like they were cooking. You know what I mean? So like if I did not have that, I would not have booked. But I still booked. You know what I mean? You don't need, and I know a lot of people do put that. I'm gonna go in depth about it. You don't need $1,000 microphone because here's the thing: you'll get $1,000 microphone. Let's say a Neumann TLM 103, for example, and it's gonna pick up everything, like everything in your
Mhm.
room. Maybe like your floors are like very sticky and you have sticky feet, and it's gonna pick up that. If you have a dog that's like twerking outside your room, it's gonna pick up that. You know what I mean? If you have very big like ambiance in your room, it's gonna pick that up. Promise me, because those three things are true. My Norman has picked that up when I had a bad space. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
you don't need that that equipment right now because your space is a very big thing. You know what I mean? And you have to worry about your space first. If you don't got a good space, that $1,000 microphone, that $1,000 interface, those $300 like headphones, your $300 PC, not $300 PC, Jesus Christ, your $1,000 PC. You know what I mean? Like your monitors,
Wait.
your Wi-Fi is another big thing. You know
Link,
what I mean?
Link, yes, I gotta interrupt a second. Yes, I have a AT2020. My walls are thin. I literally have to wait until everyone's in bed. Like, I do my auditions at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
because I pick up everything just with an AT2020. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine me having a Neumann.
Yeah.
Like,
Word.
it's gonna sound like shit. Like, and
Yeah. Fine.
I got acoustic foam. I got all the blankets. I got the mini PC that doesn't have a fan. Guess what? It still picks up things, and it's
Yeah.
just don't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Man, I'm telling you, bro. Because like that's a very big thing, man. You're gonna blow so much bread on that. The equivalent of that $1,000 microphone. If you really wanted to blow $1,000 for whatever reason, if you got that money, if because don't go band for me, but if you got that bread, spend it on classes. I promise you that $1,000, if you really just want to throw it away, right? Not throw it away, but invest into your career, right? Spend it on classes. Spend that on classes. I promise you, and spend it on good classes. Spend it on good classes. You know what I mean? That'll actually help you improve your career. How do you know if a class is good? Do your research. Do research with people that have taken that class. If that person is, constantly doing classes, literally just see, because a lot of the times people do this whenever they take a class, they take a picture and they post it on Twitter, and you can do this little cool thing where you search up things, and you can search up like let's say Crispin Freeman, for example, Crispin Freeman classes, and you can literally see the testimonials of people taking his classes. You know what I mean? And then talk around. You know what I mean? Talk around, seeing if like, okay, all these classes dope, all these classes good. Will I actually learn something from it? Am I in the position where this person will actually teach me? You know what I mean? Like, do your research. You know what I'm saying? Like, do your reconnaissance. That's what I like to call it. Do your reconnaissance. You know what I mean? And that money will be put in a lot better. I promise you. You know what I mean? So do that or save that money. You know what I mean? Because yeah, it's always good to save money. I promise you.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Maybe you want to
So
move to Texas. Save that for
yeah, well, move
Texas.
to Texas. You know what I mean? Like, so boom, I knocked it out the water. Number two, I'm gonna be real with ya. People say location isn't everything. I'm gonna be the guy that sits in the boat. Yes, it isn't everything. You can get work at being a remote voice actor. I was living in Florida for a long time. I was doing work with dubbing studios in Miami. I was doing remote stuff all the time. But location is a factor. I'm gonna tell you again, location is a factor.
Mhm.
If you are auditioning for something that is in LA, 8 times out of 10, they're going to go with somebody that lives in the area. Why? Conveniency. Studios nowadays simply do not want to go out of their way, depending on the project, for people. Commercials are different. Commercials you can record literally from anywhere. I've had like so many commercial gigs towards where they just sent me in studio local to where I live. But with anime, it is a factor. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, and that's why I'm not like lying to people. I'm not gonna lie to you guys saying that if you move to Texas, you're gonna get work. I'm not gonna lie to you guys saying that if you're not in Texas, you're not gonna get Crunchyroll work. I'm gonna be real with you. I mean, like, bro, there are a lot of chances where people move out to Texas on a whim and don't get work. I've seen it all the time. I've also seen it towards where people want to do anime, they're not in Texas, and they struggle to do it. Maybe they get on the roster, but they haven't get called in. I've seen that happen, and that's why I'm gonna be real with y'all. I just, that's just the hard truth. You know what I mean? So location isn't everything, but it also matters. That's what I would say. That's my quote of the day. That's my quote of the day. Location is location isn't everything, but it still matters. It
Mhm.
still does. I've had so many jobs, that I would be able to do remote, yes, but they would opt for the person that lived there locally. Why? Because in a casting director's mind, right? I'll probably do the same thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be real honest with you. I'll probably do the same thing because like recording remotely for anything is a struggle. It is not that easy as I would say it's made out to be because there are internet issues. There are, technical issues on both ends that can happen. There are more issues that can happen remotely than that can in studio. In studio. Like in studio, literally my process of going into Crunchyroll, I get called in, I schedule a date and time, I walk in, I say what's up, I drink my lemon water, I go in studio, I say what's up, engineer, ADR director, boom, I do my thing, act out, go home, sleep. Like it's so easy. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
if it was like a remote recording session, I can preach to y'all about how my remote recording session was with live action dubs. Bro, I was in my closet with my MacBook plugged in with my Neumann, recording for this live action thing. I had like a 10-second delay. You don't know how bad a 10-second delay is, or really any delay when you're trying to match lip flaps.
Yeah, that's harsh.
That ADR, you're putting your engineer through hell. You know what I mean? So, like, location isn't everything. You still can get work. I promise you. I've gotten tons of it living in Florida, and I still get tons of it now for remote stuff. But it also is a factor if you want to do certain stuff. If you want to do the big video games, if you want to do the big unionized anime, LA is a thing. It's not easy as it sounds because I know people just say move to LA, like it's just some like okay,
Nah.
got you. It's a transmission, boom. And I understand that, but it is a factor. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's what I would like speak truth of. And then the third thing I would say, the third thing, there's a certain mindset that you need to have to be in voiceover for so long, because people don't really think about voiceover as this is a forever thing. You know what I mean? This is something that you're always going to be doing for like the rest of your life type shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a certain mindset you gotta have. You know what I mean? I know people, I talked to Z about it, right? Like fucking, I'm sorry for cursing, by the way, but like,
You're good.
yeah, sorry for my foul mouth,
Sorry,
but
everyone.
but like, I've seen so many moments where like, you have people like super in this industry, people that have done like so many roles, so many things, that are still doing stuff to improve themselves. Like, I had a friend that saw Sean Shiplock in a class recently. And like Sean Shiplock, the guy that's like D. Luke and all these characters, he's still taking workshops. You know what I mean? And that goes to say something. It goes to say that the grind, quote unquote, it really never stops, no matter what position you're in. You know what I mean? Voiceover is a forever career. It is a forever career. It is a thing that you can literally do forever until you die and still not do everything. That is the reality of voiceover. You know? So the goal should be to find a place where you're content within the industry, where you're like, okay, did everything I want to do, I'm chilling. That should be the goal. So there's a mindset just like you gotta have, which is like doing the work, doing the grueling stuff, doing YouTube narrations for 10 $10 for 5 minutes, $15 for 8 minutes, pushing through that. You know what I mean? Doing the jobs that nobody else wants to do because it pays less. You know what I mean? Like pushing through it, and actually, that's what's gonna help you make it. You know what I mean? I promise you,
Mhm.
bro. I promise me. But yeah, those are my three top things that Nasim Benelkour has about voiceover that we didn't really talk about. That's a long title, but we're gonna go
Yes.
with it. But end it off, Megan. You can end it off.
Yeah, there's probably like so many things we could have talked about, and I probably forgot about them. My bad.
Yeah.
But a lot of the questions tied into that, which is great. So thank you all who asked those. But yeah, we're gonna end it here. Nazim, I just want to thank you very, very much for not only being here, but also being my first like interview thing. This is the
Yeah.
first time I've done it, so hopefully I did okay. But yeah.
Yeah.
I love you too, Sean. I love you all. But yeah, we're gonna call it here. Again, thank you everyone who joined. And Nazim, did you wanna just plug yourself? What social medias are you on? Let's plug you a little bit. If anyone
Okay.
wants to
So
check you out and
also,
follow.
yes, this is also a part of my career. But like I make everything consistent when it comes to social media. So literally every single thing on social media is at Lux Path. So it is literally LUCK path. Everything. So it literally is. Oh, I tagged myself like a dumbass. So you see Lux Path, yeah. So that's what it is.
Yeah.
So Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, the little stupid X app, the Facebook, literally everything. That is also something I have. You can check out my website if you want to refer to that. We'll put it down here. Hold on, just give me a little second. I'm just, typing with my little fingies.
You're all good. I think
There we
also
go.
if y'all like Google Nazim as well, like
Oh
he's the
yeah,
first name that pops up too. So
yeah. Work. So like, I made sort of that. You know, what I mean, I gotta
yeah.
sure. But yeah, so like, that. I will leave it off with like one more picture of Lexi and Rico just doing a commercial thing. That's what I'll do. The yeah,
Yes,
I'll leave
look
it
at
off with
that.
that. Yeah.
We love it. All
That's
right.
what I'll leave it
Well,
off.
again, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. Maybe, in the future we'll have more guests come on and do this sort of thing. Do some maybe a fun workshop or something. But mostly you can also go to closing credits, which is a big thing that I love to promote as well. But again, thank you and good night, everyone. Good morning, good night, good afternoon, evening, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
gonna leave it off with one tiny more thing. I'm gonna because I like to like put little like pictures. I scrolled to my camera roll and I'm like, yeah, here's Marissa Duran, just Photoshop. Yeah, just photo jumping in it. Yeah, okay, that's it. All
Yep,
right,
we're
thank you,
ending it
everybody.
there. Bye.